Solo Leveling Season 3. Episode 7 takes us deeper than ever before, right into the heart of the Double Dungeon, where Jin Woo finally comes face to face with the mysterious creator of the system. But who is this godlike figure? And why has he been watching Jin Woo all this time? The truth behind Jin Woo's power is finally revealed, and it's more insane than we ever imagined. Let's break down every hidden detail and shocking twist from this epic episode. Meanwhile, outside the gate, the association's elite hunters had arrived. A girl rushed to meet them, urging them to hurry. At the front of the team was an inspector, quietly amazed that they had managed to gather 7 of the best hunters available on such short notice. But despite the reinforcements, he feared it wouldn't be enough to support Jin Woo. These hunters were only intended as backup, and as the inspector approached the gate, an ominous sensation gripped him, an unnatural, bone-chilling energy. Turning to the others, he asked if they felt it too, like standing under an icy downpour. The magic pressing against them was overwhelmingly intense. He began to wonder if any high-ranking hunters had joined them, but was told that the Hunters Guild was off-raiding, and only 2 S-rank hunters were currently available. Alarmed, the inspector ordered an emergency message to be sent immediately. Backup needed to arrive now. Back inside the gate, Jin Woo faced the architect, the strongest foe he'd ever encountered. In a flash, the architect's wings split into 6 muscular arms. Before Jin Woo could react, the architect vanished from sight and launched a sudden, brutal punch that sent Jin Woo flying into the wall. The sheer force drew blood, but the onslaught didn't stop there. The architect continued to attack, but this time Jin Woo was ready. He began dodging with precision, intercepting the flurry of blows. In a matter of seconds, he adapted, blocking, countering. The architect was stunned. Jin Woo had surpassed every expectation. Still, the architect landed a powerful strike across Jin Woo's face and smiled with a twisted sense of excitement. But Jin Woo wasn't done either. He countered with a vicious punch of his own, knocking the architect across the room. The architect stumbled, genuinely shocked. "A human is pushing me this far?" he muttered, unable to believe how thrilled he was to be fighting someone like Jin Woo. Jin Woo, meanwhile, was thinking back. Ever since he reached level 101, this being had summoned him, intending to eliminate him. But he'd survived. "I've got 100 questions," Jin Woo growled. "Why did you build this system? Why choose me?" What's going on with my world? The architect didn't stop. Instead, he rushed forward again. "So desperate for answers," he taunted. "Afraid you'll lose your chance if you kill me?" Realizing close-range combat wouldn't work, Jin Woo sprinted to the side, preparing a ranged counterattack. The architect instantly sensed it and retaliated. The explosion rocked the area, and Jin Woo realized something terrifying. The architect could use the same skills he could. That plan was out. The architect didn't care. Whether he lived or died, his answer would remain the same. It was locked in from the moment the system was conceived. As Jin Woo pressed for answers, asking what the purpose of the system was and how he was granted such power, the architect replied coldly, "I didn't choose you. I didn't even like you back then." He had only created the system to grow a player, to evolve them. The timer continued to tick down. Jin Woo looked up. Just minutes remained. The architect floated into the air, declaring that he would fight at full strength until Jin Woo's heart stopped. Weapons materialized, sword, spear, axe, blade, and hammer, all hurtling toward Jin Woo. But this time, Jin Woo felt something. For the first time in this battle, he was completely in sync. Every motion, every weapon, he could read them. The architect watched in disbelief as Jin Woo dodged effortlessly, moving at a speed that made him invisible to the eye. Then, with one clean strike, Jin Woo severed one of the architect's stone arms. The architect winced. It may have been a temporary body, but the pain was real. He screamed in rage. "You're just a human! How dare you!" Only 3 minutes and 45 seconds remained. The statues on the ground began rising again, but Jin Woo didn't stop. He had to finish this. A massive guardian stood between him and the architect, with several smaller ones swarming alongside it. Jin Woo soared into the air, activated his monarch's might, and slammed into the earth, scattering the guards in all directions. Without hesitation, he lunged at the architect, cutting down his arms one by one. But just as he was closing in, something struck his shoulder hard. He turned. Another giant guardian, wielding a massive stone shield, stood before him. It was the same type that had once nearly defeated him, but the clock was still ticking, and Jin Woo had no intention of slowing down. He leapt high and crushed the guardian's skull with a single blow. 2 minutes left. He resumed his attack on the architect, slicing through stone arms and forcing him to the ground. The architect, breathing heavily, admitted defeat. "All the answers you're searching for. They're inside me," he said cryptically. Jin Woo was confused, but a system message appeared. Data collection complete. Accept or reject information? The truth he'd been chasing was finally within reach. "I accept," Jin Woo answered. A brilliant light engulfed him as the system transferred all the data.
Jin Woo found himself drifting in an unfamiliar realm. Suspended in the sky like a spirit, he watched countless monsters marching in a single direction. The sight was surreal. Below him stretched a sea of demons and beasts moving as one. As their heads slowly tilted upward, Jin Woo initially thought they were staring at him. But then he turned his gaze to the sky and saw an enormous gate slowly creaking open. Different regions below were overrun with monstrous beings, and it suddenly hit him. This was Earth, high orcs, goblins, and more. If these creatures escaped their dungeons, humanity wouldn't stand a chance. But the true threat lay far beyond these monsters. The final battle was drawing near, and Jin Woo now understood the gravity of the coming war. As silver-armored warriors emerged as humanity's foes, the monsters began to band together. A brutal clash erupted, filled with deafening metal strikes and blood-curdling cries. The land turned a deep crimson from the bloodshed, and it was clear the silver warriors were no pushovers. Just when it seemed the monsters would be wiped out, the heavenly fighters unexpectedly began to fall back. Then, Jin Woo saw a cloaked figure command the fallen to rise. He immediately recognized the monarch lord. From the shadows, an army emerged. A warrior clad in black armor rode a powerful steed, the Shadow Lord. He commanded an immortal legion, and as fear of death vanished, the monsters were enveloped in darkness, their strength multiplying, their blood thickening with power. Their numbers were endless. Jin Woo realized how tiny his own forces looked in comparison. Creatures that had just been slain were rising again, charging at the silver warriors with renewed ferocity. A massive battle between light and shadow unfolded, so intense it shook the earth beneath them. The flames of war, once dying, roared back to life. And amidst it all, only one being could tip the balance, Jin Woo. Observing everything from above, he finally grasped the true might of the Shadow Lord. The Shadow Army tore through the silver soldiers without pause, converting the fallen into their own. Wherever the Lord tread, destruction followed. Each victory the monsters claimed was a victory for their master, until a new force emerged. Meanwhile, back in the real world, a hunter from the association stood before a massive door alongside an inspector. The inspector asked if the door could be opened, but the hunter hesitated. He could sense a terrifying magic from within. He turned to the inspector, asking if Jin Woo was really behind those doors. The inspector confirmed it. Cha Hae-in, watching closely, felt a strange aura. It wasn't Jin Woo's magic. She wondered who could wield such overwhelming power, something beyond imagination. Despite her dread, she longed to support Jin Woo, especially now. The inspector, troubled, questioned why Jin Woo had returned to such a place. He was sure Jin Woo had his reasons. As the door creaked open, the hunters struggled to comprehend the scene within. Statues, deities. It was all real. Then, unexpectedly, a being addressed them. It was the Creator. He asked how they had arrived, claiming he never summoned them. The hunters were stunned to hear the creature speak their language. The Creator warned them to stay silent, or they would wake the king. Then, they saw Jin Woo, standing motionless, illuminated strangely. They had no idea what was happening to him. In a sudden burst of violence, 4 hunters were killed by the Creator. Sneering, the Creator dismissed them as useless. Only the strong were fit to be sacrifices for the king. In his trance, Jin Woo watched as the Dark King battled waves of monsters pouring out of the Red Gate, an endless tide stretching across the horizon. Among them was a towering beast with a pale hide. The monster horde glared at the Dark King, who stood firm with his army, ready for battle. Meanwhile, inside the chamber where Jin Woo stood frozen, chaos erupted as the hunters who entered faced the colossal statues. Some were gravely injured and needed immediate care. One hunter shouted for everyone to reinforce their defense. The enemies were already on the move. The creator loomed over them, issuing a chilling challenge to any brave enough to face him. Following the clash with his puppet guardians, the deity declared that anyone who survived would be granted a rare privilege, to witness the rise of a new king. But before that moment could arrive, one of the hunters cried out for everyone to fall back, just as the largest statue began charging its laser. In an instant, it unleashed a devastating blast, engulfing the chamber in a searing explosion, threatening to obliterate everything. The hunters scrambled, retaliating with urgency. One channeled his magic, hurling an attack back at the massive guardian, while another distracted the deity and ordered the others to handle the smaller sentries closing in around them. One of the inspectors from the Hunter Association charged a nearby statue, smashing his weapon against its large helmet. He had expected to break it, but to his shock, there wasn't even a scratch. The hunters quickly realized that these stone guardians were unusually durable, impervious even to magical attacks. Huntress Char's attempts to provoke them yielded no reaction. They didn't budge, not even slightly. Confusion began to spread among the group as one hunter questioned whether these beings could be defeated at all. Then, out of the corner of his eye, one of them noticed Jin Woo standing completely still. Suspecting he was caught in a trance, the hunter hurled a fireball toward him. This might be their final hope. But before the fireball could reach him, the creator moved at blinding speed, intercepting the attack. With a furious expression, he screamed at the hunter, demanding to know how he dared disturb the king's slumber. Just as he was about to strike the hunter down, several of the others leapt into action, attacking the creator together. One of them shouted to Huntress Cha, urging her to wake Jin Woo while they bought her time. Understanding the urgency, she sprinted toward Jin Woo with all the speed she could muster, determined to reach him. Meanwhile, Jin Woo remained mentally trapped in another realm, where shadow beasts and dark soldiers clashed with waves of monstrous foes. Despite the relentless onslaught, the shadow army only grew stronger with each fallen enemy. If it were him fighting, Jin Woo knew his mana would have run dry by now, but this power had no limit. The dark soldiers were locked in battle with both the monstrous creatures and the silver-armored warriors, revealing an inner division among the enemy ranks. After an intense struggle, only one monster remained, their commander. The King of Darkness approached him, stating that their war had finally ended. He then asked the traitorous beast why he had turned against him. The creature responded with venom, declaring his hatred and deep desire to slay the King of Darkness. Without hesitation, the king seized him by the throat, hoisted him high, and delivered a finishing blow. When the vision faded, Jin Woo found himself in the place of the king. He looked down and saw blood covering his hands. Then he glanced at his chest. 2 hearts beat inside him, one human and one shadow, pulsing with unimaginable power. Lifting his head, he saw silver knights soaring through the skies. At that exact moment, the download of data within him reached completion. Back in the chamber, the creator faced Huntress Cha and smirked, calling her an amusing individual. He found her intriguing and decided to challenge her. She responded with her sword dance, a graceful but deadly technique. However, their fight didn't last long. With a swift strike, the creator wounded her shoulder, scoffing that this was the extent of her abilities. He voiced his disappointment, declaring her just as dull and weak as the others. From his perspective, the hunters were nothing more than pieces in a grand scenario he had designed, and none of them had the strength to stand against an immortal like himself. He began mocking their attempts, claiming he'd vastly overestimated their potential. One hunter shouted desperately to the others. They had to wake Jin Woo now, or all hope was lost. Cha Hai-in pushed herself harder, running toward Jin Woo with everything she had, hoping the creator wouldn't notice. But he did. He turned on her, ready to strike her down, but she narrowly dodged, diving aside at the last second. She managed to escape his grasp, and though he was frustrated,
He found her reaction pleasing. But then he saw something strange, a shadow moving within her. According to the rules, no one was supposed to enter or exit this place. Yet somehow, the king had managed to plant a soldier inside her. Puzzled, the creator asked her how they had entered and what her connection to Jin Woo was. She responded calmly, saying they were friends, and she and the others had come here to rescue him. The creator, realizing they had entered of their own accord, smirked. He decided to grant them a rare mercy. Today, in this sacred chamber, a historic event was unfolding, the birth of a king.
And he would allow them to bear witness to it with their own eyes. As for the rest, he intended to kill them. But just as he was about to continue, a voice cut through the tension. It was Jin Woo speaking at last. And who decided that? As the creator turned toward the voice, he was met with a sudden, powerful blow. Jin Woo's fist slammed into his face, sending him hurtling across the chamber. The hunters, who had been watching in shock, now stared in awe. Jin Woo was finally awake. A wave of relief washed over them. Their hope had returned. Jin Woo stood firm, facing the stunned creator, who looked up at him in disbelief. It didn't make sense. Why wasn't he the chosen king? Why was Jin Woo, a human, the one standing there? Despite harboring a black heart, Jin Woo had not lost himself. He began to connect the dots, recalling the immense mana surging through him, the sign of the Demon Hunter title. With memories of vanquishing the Demon King, Baran, returning to him, he realized he'd gained recognition as a warrior of immense power. The Black Heart had granted him a staggering 100,000 mana. Jin Woo could see the panic in the creator's eyes. It was never part of his design. It seemed the heart was meant to crush him, not elevate him. Jin Woo questioned the creator's intentions, demanding to know why he opposed his rise as a player and what that truly meant. Enraged, the creator lashed out, yelling about the Shadow Monarch and questioning whether the other monarchs would ever forgive this betrayal. Jin Woo, calm but resolved, summoned countless blades from his portals, aiming them straight at the creator. He needed answers. But the creator only smirked, saying Jin Woo had surpassed every expectation. Now he understood why Jin Woo had been selected. Suddenly, the silent statues began to stir. The creator issued a grim warning. If he died, the statues wouldn't stop. Killing him wouldn't be the end. It would only unleash more chaos. Jin Woo, undeterred, replied that he planned to take care of both threats at once. The creator laughed bitterly, claiming that without him, the one who built the system, Jin Woo would revert to being an ordinary hunter. But Jin Woo smirked back, wondering aloud what would really happen if the system's architect was eliminated. The creator tried to log back into the system, but a notice appeared. System Administrator Login denied. Panic crept into his expression. Jin Woo calmly explained. Once he suspected the system was using him. It didn't feel like fate or kindness, but if he was merely a vessel for some higher design, then he'd surpass every limit they imposed. And now, seeing the cracks in that design, he'd consume the entire system. With that, Jin Woo struck, cutting the creator down before he could utter another word. The creator's dying breath was spent delivering a cryptic prophecy. Towering flames would rise, and death would follow. But Jin Woo turned away, undaunted. "Whatever comes," he said, "I'll be ready." Outside the dungeon, the association's hunters stood anxiously near the gate. It had been over an hour since the elite squad entered, and unease crept in. Entering now would likely be suicide. Just then, someone emerged, and their blood ran cold. The country's top hunters were returning in ruins. The inspectors stared, horrified by their battered condition, unable to comprehend what had happened inside. As they rushed to assist, one of them ordered others to recover the fallen. Jin Woo was the last to exit, reflecting silently. The real body of the creator, he thought, must still be out there, and the answers he sought remained elusive. As he began to walk off, the inspector called out to him, his voice weighted with sorrow. Nearly 20 hunters had died. If even one of those monsters had escaped, the cost could have been unimaginable. He asked Jin Woo if he had really faced all of that alone.
Jin Woo explained that he had informed the Bravo Guild about the double dungeon and asked them to alert the association, but he hadn't expected anyone to actually show up. So many had fallen. He tried to credit the survival to the monitoring team from the Hunters Guild, but the inspector clarified that it was their own department that had asked the guild to intervene, ultimately leading to this tragic loss. The inspector asked Jin Woo how he knew about the double dungeon opening. Jin Woo replied that the message had come directly to him, something only he could see in his mind.